Hey guys, this is Jesse at Code Assist, and this is the 6th video in my app customization series. In this video, I'm going to dig into the alarms feature. As you recall from my last video, my timer fields changed colors based on the state of the timers. This was accomplished through my use of alarms. So let's jump over to the Customize page and see how that was done. Okay, so I'm going to look at my CPR compression timer alarms because this set is the most comprehensive and highlights the use of all the features. If you recall from my app usage series, I demonstrated my CPR compression alarms in action. At 15 seconds, there's a spoken alarm saying 15 seconds remaining. Then there's a sequence of tones as we approach the 0 time marker. Before we dig into how these alarms are defined, I want to highlight the fact that these alarms are presented in countdown order from 2 minutes down to 0. This is because my compression timer is configured as a countdown timer. If I flip that toggle switch real quick, notice that the alarms have reversed order, counting up from 0. Keep this in mind because color changes are carried forward in time. So if you switch the mode of your timer, you may need to reconfigure the timing of your alarms that you have set. Anyway, I'll flip it back to countdown timer mode and let's take a look at the verbal alarm at 15 seconds. Okay, every alarm has 4 primary knobs that you can turn: time, audio, visual, and flash. Time is obviously the time when the alarm is active. Notice the label on the text box here will help you identify the correct logic in your time, as 15 seconds into a stopwatch is not the same thing as 15 seconds remaining in a countdown timer. And keep in mind that a default stopwatch timer counts up from 0, so it will never reach a negative time. But a countdown timer will start at its duration and count down to 0 and beyond. So a countdown timer can have a negative time values, but it will never reach any time that's greater than the duration of the countdown. Just keep that in mind. The audio portion of the alarm has 3 options: no sound, tone, or a spoken message. If you just want to flash the button or change its colors at a given time, but you don't want any sounds distracting you at that time, you would select the no sound option. If you want a tone, like the ones leading up to 0 seconds in my countdown, you would select the tone option. And if you want a spoken message, like this one, you would select the spoken option. Since this is a spoken alarm, there's only one relevant input: the message to speak. The speech synthesis here is dependent on support from the browser you're using, meaning it's not always a perfect pronunciation. Down at the bottom of the alarm panel is a preview button where you can see what your alarm will sound like. Remember, things don't have to be spelled correctly. You could add other letters to force a specific sound. One example is the voice I'm using struggles to correctly pronounce defib.
Defib.
But if I add another E to force the long E sound, it sounds better.
Defib.
So play around with different letters if the pronunciation isn't exactly how you like it. Real quick while I'm here, I'm going to cancel out this alarm change and head on up to the voice settings above. Every device is different in the voices it supports, and you can change a few parameters about the voice. Use this section to select the voice you want from the list and change its pitch and speech rate.
The quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog.
When you're happy with the voice settings, go ahead and apply it, and all of your alarms will use those voice settings going forward. Okay, back to my alarms. This time, let's go into the alarm at 2 minutes. Notice this one doesn't have any audible portion, but it does implement a visual change. The checkboxes indicate you want to change the button's background or text color. Simply select the color swatch and choose the new color. Okay, now let's open up my 0-second alarm to take a look at the final setting. Notice first, the audio for this alarm is configured as a tone. We'll come back to that in a second. I also have a visual change applied at this time. And since this one has the flash toggle switch turned on, it will use the flash effect. A flash is just a quick black and white flicker of the button, and here's what that looks like. It's really just intended to draw your attention to the button at that time. Okay, to demonstrate how to create a tone alarm, I'm going to close out this one and create a new alarm. So I'll just hit the Add button, and a clean panel pops up. Let's just set it to a random time, say 100 seconds. And I'm not going to apply any flash effect or visual effect. So let's just flip the audio to the tone option. The first knob to tweak is the frequency or pitch of the tone. If you recall in my app usage video, my CPR compression countdown tone jumps up an octave when it reaches 0 seconds. Changing the frequency gives you more control over the significance of the beeps. The next option is the pattern. To make it easy, I've implemented a standard Morse code notation here. You can choose from any number of patterns from the list and then use this slider to change the speed of the beep pattern. Through these two inputs, you should be able to create almost any relevant pattern that you want. However, if you just can't get it exactly how you want it, you can use your own pattern by enabling this checkbox, and notice the new button that appears. When I click this, it opens up a new dialog box with just a single text input field, and you can use this field to define your own custom pattern. Now the way we do this is by defining time durations for periods of sound on and off. The numbers we use represent the time in seconds. So if I just put a single value of 1 in this box and preview it, I get a single 1-second tone. But if I want multiple beeps, I need to separate them by rests in between. To do that, we use positive numbers to indicate the time of the beep and negative numbers to indicate the time of the rests in between. So if I put in a pattern like 100 milliseconds, followed by a 100 millisecond rest, followed by another 100 millisecond tone, then another 100 millisecond rest, and finally a 500 millisecond tone, I end up with something like this. And that's it. Just play with positive and negative numbers until you have a tone pattern you like, and then save it. If at a later time you decide you'd rather just use a standard pattern, just uncheck the box and it will revert to the Morse code pattern options. Okay, let's go back to the alarm list real quick. Hopefully now that you know more about how the alarms work, the icons in the alarm list make sense to you. This gives you a quick look at the time of the alarm, the audio option, the visual change, and whether or not the flash feature is enabled. And with that, we've covered all of the alarm options. This is one of the most important pieces of the Code Assist customization, so take some time to play with them and get them just right. If you decide you don't want a given alarm anymore, you can just open it up and delete it from the button here at the bottom. When you've got your alarms where you want them, check out the next video in my app customization series to learn about the other medication feature.